How would I explain it to a fourth grader? I would say to a fourth grader, there are two things you can own. One one of the things only goes down in value. One of the things only goes up in value. Which of the two do you want to own? And I would expect the fourth grader to say, I would want to own the thing that goes up, not down. And then I would say, good, that's correct. How much of the thing would you want to own that only goes up? And I would expect the fourth grader to say, as much as I can. And I would say, you're hired. You're Michael Saylor. Because that's all he's doing. That's all he's doing.
This can be a thesis that you use for some family and friends to explain the importance of Bitcoin and why they need it in their portfolio. But if they don't get it, they're not going to get it. So IQ of fourth grader, potentially. And with that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you, another cryptocurrency video. It's a lot going on in the markets today. It's a lot of blood, a lot of opportunity. We're going to get into it all, so make sure you watch this video to the end. Getting straight to it, the extreme tariffs are also coming at a time when Brexit sees a recession or depression happening in China. He emphasized this several times with Tucker Carlson. By boxing in China and shutting down their export, he's creating the same conditions that led to the big short of the Great Britain pound. If the Chinese yuan collapses, it'll cause a global flight into US Treasury bonds. So this is what people aren't fully understanding. If this happens over in China, it causes a global flight into US Treasury bonds, which will then drive down interest rates even further for when they go to refinance the $9 trillion of debt. Continuing, right now, Fed board governors behind closed doors meeting is currently underway. So what's been happening with market? We've seen the markets having a bloodbath today. Right here, look at the S&P, or all the way down to $5,000. This is on the daily chart. So if we just look out over a month, how far down have we went? A little over a month ago, we were at 6,100, and since that peak, we have had a retracement all the way down approximately, with the wick, 21%. So there's a lot of people thinking recession is going to happen. At the current time of this recording, we're 18% down. So from 61 all the way down to 5,043.93 at the current time of this recording. What do we see? What do we anticipate? So, we had this chart marked off for our own personal use, and we had some CME gaps here. One already got filled. We didn't make it all the way up to here, but we had another gap up to the 53.96 level. So over this week, we could see some potential price action over the next week or two that could come back up and fill these gaps. It's not 100%, but it's a high probable chance that this gap will get filled. So we could see some type of relief rally up like to this. Now, will we fill the gap entirely? Will we get it just halfway to 53.50? Who knows? But either way you cut the cloth, this gap is there. And are we out of the woods yet? Once again, this closed board meeting is happening today. Will we have some type of emergency rate cuts that's on the horizon for markets? That's what Trump's asking for. So we'll see if the Fed gives it to him. Looking at Bitcoin, the current time it's recording, we're down to 78,000. What do we see? What do we anticipate? So Bitcoin has broken through some major key levels. If we zoom into this price action, we'll zoom out in a second, but you see we were just on this uptrend, this big candle here, boom, came back down and retested this horizontal support that was been holding. So we could be coming down to 71,000. That looks like that could be what's in the cards for Bitcoin. Because, when we come into these levels, you got to pay attention to them. That's why we've been drawing these trend lines for you. When we had this fake out, it came back up, fake out, came back up. This horizontal support, we had a fake out here, next day came back up and then tested again. Now we just fell through this, next day came back, didn't get back up into the channel, but retested at the bottom and got rejected the current time it's recording. Could we see lower price action coming down to this macro horizontal level right here? This is the next level to pay attention to. 71,000 if we do not see a retracement in the market. So could the bottom be in? Possibly as well. So let's look why we think that. You might want to have some dry capital if we have this scenario, but a majority of this fall is already in. we're closer to the bottom than we are to the peak. So if you haven't got it up here, then you might as well just sit in your hands and do nothing, because we could come down. You'll have a few more percentage points lost in your portfolio, but we could be getting this rounding bottom that could happen. Now, could this also occur where we are right now? That is definitely a possibility. Why do we say that? Look at the RSI right here. The RSI put in a low here back on February 28th, the end of February, and then the RSI put in a higher low, while the price now then put in a lower low right here. Let's zoom into this price action so you can see this a little bit more clear. So we put in this low, put in a lower low, while this put in a higher low. And then look what just happened today. With the wicks, even with the candle bodies, we put in a lower low on the price action. Let's get our brush. A lower low, and then also put in a higher low from this previous low right here. So you see that this is a bullish divergence. We had a bullish divergence here and here. So it's a double bullish divergence, and paired with that, we've seen a buy signal. Now, just because we see the buy signal on the hash strip, it doesn't mean that it just goes up and to the right from there. We have seen in the past where we roll over and get another low once this flashes. So this is all bullish price action, higher lows and higher lows on the RSI, putting in a double bullish divergence. We're getting this buy signal. And look here, the last time we've seen a buy signal, was October of 2024. We got a little bit of a pump afterwards, but then got that retracement, but then ultimately went up and to the right. But before that, we got one July of 2024, and then look what happened. We had a meltdown, retrace, and then came back down to this level. And look, we actually look at this upwards trend line, this white line right here. This trend line has been your friend to the end. And even back in this area, we had wicks below. We actually had closes below, but then ultimately got back above it, and then ultimately put in a new high. So this is seeming like it could be just an opportunity. Now, once again, could we have a rollover down to see lower price action? Yes. So if this price action did something like this and came back up and then put a higher low in, we could then get this drop. So then if you look here, this looks like some type of wedge pattern that's forming, rounding bottom. We come in and trade it and get out of this, break, flip resistance to support before having a blast up while the price action recovers. So this is everything that we see in the charts. Right now, if you didn't catch this up here around 100 or even the 95 range, you want to probably just sit on your hands, because there's a slight chance that we could get a reversal. We just have to wait and see. There's a lot of negotiations going on with the tariffs. Trump is, really threatening China. He's cracking down and say by April 9th, if China doesn't come to a consensus of what they're doing with the negotiations, then they're going to add another 50%. But, we'll see what comes of these tariffs. Over the next 2 weeks, that could be in the past. So that just keep that in mind. By the end of this month, we could be past this. We'll get this bottom. We'll survive, and markets will continue on. So keep this in mind. The VIX right now is up to 50. So it's just going straight up to the right. And this means this could be recession on the way or an opportunity. So last time we seen this, we went over this with you on the last video. This was August of 24. This was an opportunity. Markets ripped afterwards. January, February, March of 2020. This was around the pandemic dump. Markets ripped afterwards. Right here was within a bear market, so markets did dump afterwards. And this was the only time. And then in October of 15, markets ripped through December of 2020 or 2017. So this is of the last 4 times, shooting 75%. Not that bad. What will Bitcoin do? Will Bitcoin come down ultimately to retest this horizontal resistance, flip to support before having continuation to the upside? We're seeing this massive buy signal. So even though markets are bloody, it could be an opportunity to start dollar cost averaging and getting a position in. Sizing is important. Don't over leverage yourself, and hodl strong. And with that, I'm Sean with the Bitcoin Bro. You guys like this content, go ahead and smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and show us some love. We appreciate each and every one of you. With that, I'm out.